The reading this morning is the same as the epigraph for my first poem, although Anne is going to go first, so you're just going to have to remember this. So, continue to love one another. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember those who are in prison, as though in prison with them, and those who are ill-treated, as if you suffered with them. That's from Hebrews 13, 1 through 5. Well, we have the poet Anne Kenniston with us this morning, who will be reading alternately with me. Anne received her bachelor's in English at the University of Chicago, and then went on to NYU for another, her bachelor's in Chicago, and her master's at NYU with concentration in creative writing, and then she received her PhD in English literature at Boston University. She has 3 collections of poems published. The first was Caution of Human Gestures, some of which we've read at previous Sunday forums, I think, and November Wasps and Somatic. She has a number of academic books published as well. I think most recently Economies of Scale, is that right? Financialization and Contemporary North American Poetry. And also The News from Poems, Essays on 21st Century American Poetry of Engagement. And engagement seems to be a frequent theme in her academic writing. And in fact, she's taught 21 different courses in poetry and ethics and engagement. So Anne has twice been a recipient of the Academy of American Poets Prize. She's received several artists' grants from the Nevada Arts Council as well. And she is going to begin the Sunday Forum this morning with one of her own poems.
Thank you. Oh wait, we have to switch this, I think. Wait. Hold on, for the virtual world. Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
We have to remember to do this.
Okay.
There she is.
Yes, okay. I'm little, which is good. So I'm going to start with a poem that's actually the title poem of my manuscript that I'm working on. It's a poem that is about the January 6th attacks, but it is set a year after the attacks and is a response to the news coverage of them. So it talks about the photos and the news and things like that. It's a little bit long, as you'll see on your handout. Bruise theory. They look inhuman in the photos reproduced today, a row of tiny men and women scaling a high wall, though in close-up they're enormous and pumped up, arrayed like shock troops, someone said, the ones with grudges, always loudest and off-key and shameless, like the guy on American Idol who didn't care his voice was terrible, so willingly reprised the song at karaoke bars and paid gigs, epitomizing grit he must have felt, the most hallowed ideals, most easily bruised because open to so many competing interpretations. When I palpate my grievances, touch what still bears traces of a former injury, I'm trying to master, then overmaster what still twinges, aches, or throbs as if I could transform myself into a warrior, triumphant over all the scars and bruises still persisting now. Though sometimes all I want is to devise a theory I can set my hurt into, a box or vessel to keep it in eternally and look at it sometimes, but not release it ever. No matter that a year ago my fellow citizens exploited the deliberate ambiguity of the language of the founders who intended to grant ordinary folks the power till then reserved for tyrants, the enormous hauled-up flag on the front page of newspapers and on TV and social media in memory of the insurrection, the self-coup, uprising, riot, or rebellion, evoking other flags hoisted above other smoky or windswept battlements by one or several soldiers or civilians, or by a muscular, bare-breasted woman embodying liberty in old paintings, photos, and songs. We were taught depict what's best in us, most courageous, earnest, and true, though the flag has always been susceptible to unwanted handling and excessive love, the way a bruise renews itself when poked or fondled or used to justify a lie, the flagpole easily transformed into a hammer, battering ram, or spear, the flag a winding sheet, a shroud.
So the next poem is mine, and it's entitled "They Deport Angels Now." So you'll remember the. Oh, thank you, Eric. I was supposed to remember to do that. But in any case, remember the epigraph: "Continue to love one another. Do not welcome the stranger, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware." They deport angels now, angels who started more businesses than we did, too many businesses, I guess, angels who committed less crime than we did, picked too many strawberries, prepared the meat for our tables, and milked our cows, angels who paid their taxes but received no benefits, leaving more for us. Angels who opened restaurants and washed dishes and cleared tables and others. We don't need restaurants. We can eat at home. If we can find strawberries or milk or a decent roast. The angels they haven't deported are dying in warehouses, purchased with the taxes they paid, dying with their children, praying their rosaries, picking no fruit, milking no cows, still committing no crimes. Best of all, we don't have to look at them. They aren't like us, and now we don't have to take account of their suffering. They won't impose on our hospitality anymore. Jesus was a nag and a scold, and he was deported with them. Yeah. Okay. All right. And Anne is next.
This next poem is by the poet Lee Herrick, who is the poet laureate of California. Oops. We have to switch.
Oh, yes.
Okay. He's the poet laureate of California, and actually, as it happened, he was reading in Incline on Friday, and I heard him read this very poem, which came sort of out of his poet laureate duties and responsibilities. So he actually got a whole bunch of poets to rally at the State House in Sacramento, and they all read parts of a long poem, and then he ended by reading this poem, Courage, that he wrote. Courage. I almost stopped believing in the ocean. Imagine that. I almost stopped believing in the music of such massive natural splendor. I had lost sight of it, lost sight of hope, because innocent people were killed by people in masks, hiding their faces, their shame parading as providence, their weakness posing as policy. But then I remembered the tides. I was restored by the courage of poets whose songs sounded like ocean waves guided by the moon. Even now, there is music. Children laughing on the swings, a student learning the saxophone, a woman reading her rough draft by the lake, a father whistling a love song in his native language. Courage is from the Latin word cor, which means heart, which means we are a heart of poets, as in take courage, take heart, as in the widow was grateful for your encouragement, your giving heart, as in the heart of your convictions. What I mean is we are made of love and therefore larger than their terror. As a great poet said, they can cut back all of the flowers, but they cannot hold back spring. We are a massive natural splendor too. In the end, all we are is love and love and love. In the end, the ocean and the music might save us. Meet me at the beach. Bring your light. Bring your songs. I'll wait for you.
Oh, my God. Could you read that last part again? Just that last 5 or 6
What I mean is, well, let me actually, hold on. Yeah, okay. I'll start on page 2. What I mean is, we are made of love and therefore larger than their terror. As a great poet said, they can cut back all of the flowers, but they cannot hold back spring. We are a massive natural splendor too. In the end, all we are is love and love and love. In the end, the ocean and the music might save us. Meet me at the beach. Bring your light. Bring your songs. I'll wait for you.
So the next poem is Enemies by Wendell Berry, one of our most popular American poets. He is 91 and still farming in Henry County, Kentucky, where he was born and raised. He, in fact, got his BA and MA in English at the University of Kentucky. Subsequently served a Wallace Stegner Fellowship at Stanford, where his classmates were Ken Kesey and Larry McMurtry. He's also had a Guggenheim Fellowship, and he has been mentored by Wallace Fowley and Thomas Merton. You'll remember that Merton's Trappist monastery was in Kentucky as well. He's been an activist, anti-war activist, as well as an environmental activist and advocate for agrarian values. Probably his most popular poems are the so-called Sabbath poems, and several collections of Sabbath poems have been published. Maybe his most popular is one called The Peace of Wild Things. This is entitled Enemies. If you are not to become a monster, you must care what they think. If you care what they think, how will you not hate them and so become a monster of the opposite kind? From where then is love to come? Love for your enemy, that is the way of liberty. From forgiveness. Forgiven, they go free of you, and you of them. They are to you as sunlight on a green branch. You must not think of them again, except as monsters like yourself, pitiable because unforgiving.
So the next poem I'm reading is by Ilya Kaminsky. He is a poet who was born in the then Soviet Union and moved to the U.S. He writes in English. And this is a poem that was has been circulating a lot lately. So you'll obviously hear the theme of the poems today about sort of responding to terribleness. And many of the poems we're reading find some solace. This one maybe less so. We lived happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling, invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war.
The next poem is by Wisława Szymborska, a Polish poet who's born and raised in Krakow, lived there pretty much all of her life. She received the Nobel Prize in 1996, and prior to that received the Goethe Prize and the Herder Prize in Europe. She died in 2012 at the age of 88. This is entitled The End and the Beginning. After every war, someone has to clean up. Things won't straighten themselves up, after all. Someone has to push the rubble to the side of the road so that corpse-filled wagons can pass. Someone has to get mired in scum and ashes, sofa springs, splintered glass, and bloody rags. Someone has to drag in a girder to prop up a wall. Someone has to glaze a window, rehang a door. Photogenic it's not, and takes years. All the cameras have left for another war. We'll need the bridges back and new railway stations. Sleeves will go ragged from rolling them up. Someone, broom in hand, still recalls the way it was. Someone else listens and nods with unsevered head. And already there are those nearby starting to mill about who will find it dull. From out of the bushes, sometimes someone still unearths rusted out arguments and carries them to the garbage pile. Those who knew what was going on here must make way for those who know little and less than little. And finally, as little as nothing. In the grass that has overgrown to causes and effects, someone must be stretched out, blade of grass in his mouth, gazing at the clouds.
So Szymborska is really a poet of kind of oblique angles and looking at the little details and the things that nobody notices. She has become very popular in the U.S. due to her translator partly, and the same translator has translated another Polish poet, Adam Zagajewski, who was born right after World War II, but then moved to the U.S., but continued writing in Polish, unlike Kamiński. So this is a poem that was circulated a lot after the 9/11 attacks, and is really, again, a response to damage and horror. And I find it really moving the way it's a poem written in the imperative, so it's talking to the reader, and the way that imperative changes throughout the poem, even as there's sort of a refrain line about the mutilated world. Okay, let's see. Try to praise the mutilated world. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world and the gray feather a thrush lost and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns. I think we're doing a bad job with our
So,
alternation.
one of there was some overlap in the poems that Anne and I chose, and so Chris, you need to skip the next one, and since I had Adam Zagajewski on my list also, so skip down to Dance, Dance While the Hive Collapses. Yeah, Tiffany Higgins. Yeah, Chris is ahead of me there. And thank you for adjusting the camera. So, Tiffany Higgins was a fellow in environmental humanities at the University of Utah. She had a Fulbright scholarship to study the impact of a deep shipping canal in an Amazonian river on the river indigenous peoples, and she's also been a translator of Brazilian poets. She teaches at several colleges in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she has published a couple of books of poems, one of which is called Aeneas Stares into Her Helmet, and she lives in Oakland. Dance, dance while the hive collapses. Oh my, I lose myself. I study atlases and cirrus paths in search of traces of it, of you, of that thing, of that song. I keep pressing my ear to the current of air to hear. I hear it and it disappears. It was all I wanted to do in this life, to sense that phantom tap on my nerves, to allow myself to be hit by it, attacked, aroused, until as if someone else I arise, I dance my part in paradise. I read that bees who've drunk imidacloprid can't waggle to indicate to others where the best nectar is located. You and I also long to map for each other the sweetest suck of sap. Workers carry far less food back to the waiting hive. They wander, wobble, can't bring their way home alive. The imidacloprid imbibed can't bring it back to the colony. Some hives collapse entirely. I desire to say that I would do it differently. I would be the bee bloomed with pesticide that still would shake out a wiggle like the finger signature on the iPad at checkout. Not quite you, but still identity, more like a wave than solid you, yet enough to signify. There, in the far-off field, spiked acanthus, trumpets of datura, in the abandoned lot on the corner of International and High, the mystic assignation of golden throat of light. Gorge, gorge, take your fill, I would cry, before I too failed and my bumbling body lay down to die. I'd dance my last dance to rescue the hive. Yes, I'd carry the amber whirrers out alive. Or not. Perhaps I too would succumb to the corn syrup, chemical piped into our supply. I too, longing to find my way to you, would go off course. Alas, there is melody, rhythm. Someone is streaking out in the air, droning around the phonograph, which is the grooved heart valve of the black vinyl, divine who is winding this universe. Someone is dancing us. Will it be you? Dance, dance, as the hive collapses. Dance, dance while the colony disassembles. Dance the occasion, dance the gorgeous design, inside the honey of our lit-up veins, between the stripes and streams of these swift rays. Some hives collapse entirely. I dare to say that I'm lost. Let's see. Oh, that's the end of the poem, sorry. Between the stripes and streams of these swift rays. Okay.
sort of major Chinese poets who lived in the 700s. And like many poets at that time, I guess, he worked for the government. Oh, thank you. We need someone who's just going to be the camera mover.
We have all kinds of help from the audience. Audience participation.
I broke it.
Uh-oh.
It may be
Oh.
this. So it comes back.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Are we good? Oh,
There we go.
Oh, okay.
we're back. Okay.
Anyway, yes, so I think one of the themes in the poems that I chose, at least, is the kind of tension between the horrible doings of humans and the natural world. So this is a kind of archetypal poem of that kind. And it's translated by Arthur Z., who is our current poet laureate, and is actually the first poet laureate who has foregrounded translation as his sort of poet laureate project. And I will say that Z's poems themselves are often written in one sentence lines. So this translation is following his own proclivity. Spring view. The nation is broken, but hills and rivers remain. Spring is in the city, grass and trees grow thick and lush. Touched by the hard times, flowers shed tears. Grieved by separation, birds are startled in their hearts. The beacon fires have burned for 3 consecutive months. A letter from home would be worth 10,000 pieces of gold. As I scratch my white head, the hairs become fewer, so scarce that I try in vain to fasten them with a pin.
Oh, yes, okay.
Uh-oh. Did we break it again?
Maybe we
Okay.
shouldn't do that. All right. Well, so the next poem is by another poet laureate, Louise Glick. She is the most recent American poet to receive the Nobel Prize. That was in 2020. She had previously received a Pulitzer and the Bowlingen Prize, and she taught at Yale and at Stanford, and died just 3 years ago at the age of 80. This is The Wild Iris. It's the title poem of her best-known book, The Wild Iris. At the end of my suffering there was a door. Hear me out. That which you call death I remember. Overhead noises, branches of the pine shifting, then nothing. The weak sun flickered over the dry surface. It is terrible to survive as consciousness, buried in the dark earth. Then it was over, that which you fear, being a soul and unable to speak, ending abruptly, the stiff earth bending a little, and what I took to be birds darting in low shrubs. You who do not remember, passage from the other world, I tell you I could speak again, whatever returns from oblivion, returns to find a voice. From the center of my life came a great fountain, deep blue shadows on azure seawater.
Okay, so I'm going to shift kind of radically in tone and focus. So Gerard Manley Hopkins was a late 19th century Jesuit. I believe he was a priest. But he wrote a lot of poems about his religious faith. Poems about lots of things. But he wrote a series of poems that are known as the Terrible Sonnets, which are about his grappling with his faith and with the terrible things in the world and within himself. So this poem, and you'll see the way the poem looks on the page, he wrote these very long lines and kind of strange rhythm. So he's really considered an innovator in form along the lines of Emily Dickinson in the U.S. He was British. This is a poem that's addressed to despair, but then it also seems like it's addressed to God. So it gets a little blurred in the middle. And carrion, of course, is, like dead things that vultures eat. Carrion comfort. No, I'll not carrion comfort, despair, not feast on thee. Nor untwist, slack they may be, these last strands of man in me. Or, most weary, cry, I can no more. I can something, hope, wish day come, not choose not to be. But oh, thou terrible, why wouldst thou rude on me, thy ring world right foot rock, lay a lion limb against me, scan with darksome devouring eyes my bruised bones, and fan, oh, in terms of tempest, me heaped there, me frantic to avoid thee and flee. Why? That my chaff might fly, my grain lie sheer and clear, nay, in all that toil, that coil, since seems I kissed the rod, hand rather, my heart low, lapped strength, stole joy, would laugh, cheer. Cheer whom, though? The hero whose heaven handling flung me, foot trod me, or me that fought him? Oh, which one? Is it each one? That night, that year of now done darkness, I, wretch, lay wrestling with my God, my God.
Well, we don't need to turn the camera this time because we forgot to do it
Oh,
last time.
perfect. It can just stay on you.
You just changed seats.
We could try that.
Musical chairs.
like dancing around the hive.
Right.
Well, the next poem is a radical change from Gerard Manley Hopkins. This is David Wagner and a poem called Lost. And certainly many of us have felt lost in the past year. So this is maybe the most appropriate poem this morning. He was poet laureate of Washington State, actually, although he was born in Indiana, took his BA in English at Penn State and his master's in English at Indiana University. He was a longtime editor of Poetry Northwest, a chancellor of the American Academy the Academy of American Poets. He also received the Ruth Lilly Prize, a leading prize in poetry awarded by the Poetry Foundation. David Wagner, Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes, listen. It answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren.
If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you.
The next poem is by W.S. Merwin, who's also a very decorated poet, lived in Hawaii and died recently. And this is another poem that uses repetition, as many of these seem to. Thanks. And he's also known for never using punctuation. That's one of his trademarks. Thanks. Listen, with the night falling, we are saying thank you. We are stopping on the bridge to bow from the railings. We are running out of the glass rooms with our mouths full of food to look at the sky and say thank you. We are standing by the water, thanking it, standing by the windows, looking out in our directions, back from a series of hospitals, back from a mugging. After funerals, we are saying thank you. After the news of the dead, whether or not we knew them, we are saying thank you. Over telephones, we are saying thank you in doorways and in the backs of cars and in elevators. Remembering wars and the police at the door and the beatings on stairs, we are saying thank you. In the banks, we are saying thank you. In the faces of the officials and the rich and of all who will never change, we go on saying thank you. Thank you. With the animals dying around us, taking our feelings, we are saying thank you. With the forests falling faster than the minutes of our lives, we are saying thank you. With the words going out like cells of a brain, with the cities growing over us, we are saying thank you, faster and faster. With nobody listening, we are saying thank you. Thank you, we are saying and waving, dark though it is.
Well, Anne is next going to read Good Bones by Maggie Smith, and I thought she would come before me.
Oh.
And Good Bones is, I guess, Maggie Smith's most famous poem, but there's another one that I like even more, called First Fall, as in first autumn. She lives in Bexley, Ohio, only blocks from Rachel's brother. I say that because there are only a few blocks in Bexley, which is surrounded by Columbus. She went to Ohio Wesleyan and got her MFA at Ohio State in Columbus. She's had a National Endowment for the Humanities Fellowship. She's been a lecturer at Gettysburg College, and she's written some 5 volumes of poetry. So this is her newborn child's first autumn. That's what the title means. And she's taking him for a walk in a park near Bexley. I'm your guide here in the evening dark, morning streets. I point and name. Look, the sycamores. Their mottled, paint-by-number bark. Look, the leaves rusting and crisping at the edges. I walk through Schiller Park with you on my chest. Stars smolder well into daylight. Look, the pond, the ducks, the dogs paddling after their prized sticks. Fall is when the only things you know, because I've named them, begin to end. Soon I'll have another season to offer you. Frost soft on the window, and a porthole side there. Ice sleeving the bare gray branches. The first time you see something die, you won't know it might come back. I'm desperate for you to love the world, because I brought you here.
So that is a great companion poem to Good Bones, which is also talks about being a mother and having children, but in a much more cynical way. And I think one of the things in the poems today is this kind of tension between like say thank you and praise the mutilated world, like these exhortations to say that things are good. And there's a little bit of a slippage sometimes in the poems of like, well, are they good? Like, is the world is still mutilated, right? All these terrible things are happening. So the kind of ways that we go on in the face of this difficulty. So this is a poem that deals with this directly, and it's a poem that went completely viral during COVID. Good Bones. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible, and for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful.
As a former real estate.
So the next poem is by another U.S. poet laureate. You've already heard his translation of Du Fu, and this is one of his poems. He was born in New York City, attended MIT, but then mid-course transferred to UC Berkeley because he decided he'd rather study poetry than physics, and he's had some 12 collections of poetry, most recently Into the Hush. He's received the National Book Award, the Pulitzer, the Bowling Prize, the Ruth Lilly Prize, which you've heard about, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and so on. This is the first poem in his Into the Hush, and it's entitled Anvil. When a black butterfly flits past, when you glimpse the outlines of apple trees, when you smell the sprig of sunrise and walk up to the ditch, when bearing a lute, Juma, Tuscarora join the list of vanished languages, when you turn a spigot and irrigate blossoming pear trees, when the time of your life is a time of earthquakes, when a woman hit by a car while crossing the street recovers, then slides into pain, when a Matsutake emerges out of the rubble of Hiroshima, when a bartender blows smoke rings and slips through hoops into his past, when foragers slice russulas, amanitas, cladocibes, and pursue red-capped bolites, when water slips through roots, rises through a trunk, streams into leaves, when in our bodies we sway and flood, when you bloody your hands, when the mind, like this earth, is struck and tilts its axis, when under summer stars you have built a cabin in the wilderness, when you gaze at Aldebaran and sense a first frost on the grass, when in our bodies we ride the waves of our earth, here is the anvil on which to hammer your days.
Jane Hirschfield is a poet, I think, who would be very appealing to UUs. She's Buddhist. She writes a lot about paradoxes and the natural world and the California landscape. This poem is called For What Binds Us, and I actually first heard it at a wedding, for which it was a very beautiful reading. For what binds us? There are names for what binds us. Strong forces, weak forces. Look around, you can see them. The skin that forms in a half-empty cup, the nails rustling into the places they join, joints dovetailed on their own weight. The way things stay so solidly wherever they've been set down. And gravity, scientists say, is weak. And see how the flesh grows back across a wound with a great vehemence, more strong than the simple, untested surface before. There's a name for it on horses when it comes back darker and raised, proud flesh, as all flesh is proud of its wounds, wears them as honors given out after battle, small triumphs pinned to the chest. And when two people have loved each other, see how it is like a scar between their bodies, stronger, darker, and proud, how the black cord makes of them a single fabric that nothing can tear or mend.
Well, uh-oh. Oh, there we go. All right. So, the next poem, which I think I'll also read from the poet's book, because I love the title that's so appropriate to the theme this morning, Words in the Morning Time, by Robert Hayden. The poem is, however, called A Plague of Starlings. Now, Robert Hayden was born in Detroit, studied Spanish and minored in English at Wayne State. He was in the Federal Writers Project, so that'll date him for you. He studied under W.H. Auden at the University of Michigan, where he subsequently taught, but then taught for 23 years at Fisk University. And in fact, the poem is about a walk across campus on the way to teach. He died in 1980 at the age of 66. He was also a consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress, which was the position that preceded what we now call the U.S. Poet Laureate. So another Poet Laureate for you this morning. Evenings I hear the workmen fire into the stiff magnolia leaves, routing the starlings gathered noisy and befouling there. Their scissoring terror like glass coins spilling, breaking. The birds explode into mica sky, raggedly fall to ground, rigid in clench of cold. The spared return when the guns are through, to the spoiled trees like choiceless poor, to a dangerous dwelling place, chitter and quarrel in the piercing dark above the killed. Mornings I pick my way past death's black droppings on campus lawns and streets with troublesome starlings, frost-salted lie troublesome still. And if not careful, I shall tread upon carcasses when I go mornings now to lecture on what Socrates, the hemlock hour nigh, told sorrowing Phaedo and the rest about the migratory habits of the soul. Do you have another poem?
I don't. I'm done.
Well, gosh, we've got 11 minutes to go. We have to at least use the next minute, I think.
What do you want to read?
Well, I'll go back to
Harjo?
the poem that I skipped.
Or the Harjo poem.
The what, which one?
Harjo?
Oh, yeah, we skipped Harjo, didn't we? All right, yeah, let me do Harjo if I can find it. I've managed to mix up all the
Here.
pages here.
Hold on, me
Do
too.
you have
But
it?
I have it, as long as it's on one page.
Oh, here it is.
Oh,
There it is. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay, this is good. All right, well, another poet laureate of the U.S. This poem is Perhaps the World Ends Here, and it comes from a collection called The Woman Who Fell from the Sky. Joy Harjo was our first Native American poet laureate. She's a citizen of the Muskogee Nation in Oklahoma. She actually is one of only two who've served 3 terms as poet laureate, actually. She studied at the University of New Mexico, took an MFA at the University of Iowa, and she too has received the Bollingen Prize and the Ruth Lilly Prize, did a in the Wallace Stevens Award, and she's also had a Guggenheim, and she's a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. Perhaps the world ends here. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it. We make women. At this table we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around their children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite. So, well, that's the last sweet bite of poetry this morning. And we thought we had too many poems.
Yes. We kept finding more and more.
So unexpectedly, there is opportunity for comment or questions about these or any other poems. Gaia?
You brought to mind the only poem I ever had published. I'll go as far as I can, it won't be far, but you'll know who I'm talking about. No worse, there is none, nay, not enough of one, more than he who so mercilessly hath murdered our muddled minds. Our bodies may be something, but they also house our humanity. Do you know who I?
Yes, that's
Yes,
Hopkins.
I mean,
It's
I
another
just
one of the.
hated him, and I had to study him for so damn long. And the one, my college thing, I sent a whole bunch of poems to them. The one that got published was Gerard Manley Hopkins and my feelings about.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's always something to be learned when you get triggered.
I remember helping you memorize the Caring Comfort. And It's a
Yeah.
very hard poem.
Yeah,
to memorize.
it's very dense, and all those consonant clusters and weird meter. It's actually called sprung meter.
He overused accidents and alliteration was one of the lines.
Yes, he used a lot of that. Yes, but his poems are unlike any others, I think, in their kind of emotional intensity.
Can you recite your favorite poem?
You mean from memory? Okay, well, I'm going to mangle it is the problem. But I'm really thinking of what poem might I remember. All right, you're going to have to look it up and cue me when I screw up. Meditation at Lagunitas by Robert Hass.
Why don't you just read it? Do you want, or you want
No,
to try
I'm
and do it
going
by
to try.
heart?
But all the old thinking is about loss. In this, it resembles all the new thinking. The idea, for example, that I'm just going to carry on. You won't know the difference, right? That each particular erases the luminous clarity of the general idea. That the clown-faced woodpecker probing the black bark of that dead birch is a tragic falling off from a world of undivided light. Or the other notion that because there is no one thing to which the bramble of blackberry corresponds, the word is elegy to what it signifies. We talked about it late last night, and in the voice of my friend, there was a thin wire of grief, a tone almost querulous. After a while, I understood that talking this way, everything dissolves. Justice, woman,
Right.
something, you and I. There was a woman.
There was a
There was a woman I made love to, and I remember how holding her small shoulders in my hands, I felt a violent wonder at her presence, like a thirst for salt, for my childhood river with its island willows, little muddy places where we caught the orange-silver fish called pumpkin seed. I'm lost it. It hardly had to do with her. Desiring, as we say, longing, we say, because desire is full of endless distances. But I remember so much. The way her hands dismantled bread, the thing her father said that hurt her, what she dreamed. There are moments when the body is as numinous as words, days that are the good light continuing. Such tenderness those afternoons and evenings, saying, blackberry, blackberry, blackberry. More or less. More or less.
That's a very long poem to remember, my word.
I memorized a really long one that I had read so many times that I kind of remembered it anyway, but I don't know that I could do it now, and I'll spare you. But, yes.
That was Richard Haas?
Robert Hass, yes, a California poet, another poet laureate, really wonderful poet, and writes a lot about our climate in the Sierra. He's been involved in the community of writers up at Olympic Valley, and he writes a lot of poems about that landscape. So he's worth seeking out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Brad.
Well, I noticed that the title of this forum was Finding Resilience and Hope in Difficult Times. Did all the poems that you shared with us this morning kind of address that theme, or somewhat? Or,
Well, what I tried to do is to put the darker poems that define the problem at the beginning and move toward more hopeful poems. I didn't accomplish that perfectly, I don't think, but I think Lost is the one that gave me the best sense of finding resilience and hope in these difficult times. I hope that was true for some of you.
I like the bee poem, that did it for me.
Oh, you like dancing as the hive collapses?
Yes, because there's movement and there's, fertilization happening and it lends to something new coming.
Yes,
So I
yes.
really love that poem
Okay,
a lot.
okay.
But I would say, just to add on to your question and to what you said, that, I really was struck, yes, I chose these poems because they were related to that theme, but I really was struck by the way that many poems acknowledge the terribleness and then, how do we go on? And often, as I said before, it's through nature or ordinary things or, blackberry, blackberry, blackberry is doing it too, right? In a different way. So that sense of acknowledging the challenge and then, what do we do? What can we do? So I learned a lot compiling these poems because they often make a very similar move.
I think the last one was the most impactful in that term for me, because when you think about it through history, life is centered around the hearth, always has been, always will be. And the modern equivalent of that is the kitchen table.
Mhm.
And this is how we get through life.
Right,
So much stuff happens around the kitchen table.
right.
And the last year and a half, I have not felt lost. I have felt beaten down and bloody.
Mhm.
And all that I thought I understood about my country is nothing. And it's discouraging as hell. But focusing on what good I can, what little I can do, and what good I can do, and the kitchen table, this I think will get us through. I hope.
Right.
And that there's so much beauty in the world, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like as a young person, who facing kind of the dauntingness of right now, it's really encouraging also to hear the perspectives of people from across times that were very scary and very hard when it looked super dark and like the end. But people found the hope, and that exists, that blueprint to get back to good when you're in a really dark place. And so I think hearing that repeated narrative across poems from different eras of how people found their way back to hope in times when hope felt gone really adds a lot of hope and encouragement to my personal daily life.
That's great. And maybe a lovely
Good.
point to end on.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for being here. Is anyone rushing off to the party? And Anne, thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Good.
You guys are such a great audience. Thank you.
Our next forum, Kevin? Our next forum?
Next forum is Kristen Femula, whose title is Into the Unknown. So I have nothing to add.
Standing room only. Standing room folks out there. So
Yeah.
nothing to worry about.
We stopped.
I noticed that.
Yeah, it just seemed too dangerous.
I should have, actually what you should have done is